Shocking truth, CEO who never smiled for 20 years breaks down after secretary's song at midnight. In the heart of the towering skyscraper where fortunes were made and lives were crushed, a storm was brewing. The air was thick with tension, crackling like electricity just before a storm. At the helm of this ironclad empire sat Jonathan Graves, a man who wore a permanent frown like a badge of honor. For 2 decades, he ruled a billion-dollar industry without ever so much as a hint of joy. His employees whispered about him, some dared to call him a monster. They feared his cold gaze, his sharp tongue that could slice through the bravest heart. But tonight, everything would change. As the clock struck midnight, a haunting melody filled the empty halls of the office floor. The agency's primary secretary, Mia, had stayed late, an innocent act of dedication. The soft glow of her desk lamp cast long shadows, but it was the music wafting from her lips that turned the stillness into something electric. The notes soared like a soft flutter against the steel structure around her. What secret could this song hold? What was it about her voice that sent shivers down spines? Footsteps echoed through the empty corridor, the heavy thuds of Jonathan's polished shoes against the floor thrumming like a warning bell. Workers jumped at his approach, the tension palpable, hearts racing. He paused, listening through the partially open door, drawn inexplicably by the enchanting sound that seemed to peel away the chill around him. Was he really considering stepping into the warmth of the melody? The whispers grew louder amongst the scattered employees. What if he smiles? Then, there was a silence, a heartbeat where everything stopped. Mia hit a note so pure it made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. It was vulnerable, raw. Could it possibly break the ice around Jonathan's frozen heart? He felt a lump rise in his throat, an unfamiliar sensation that rattled him. This was unlike anything he had ever allowed himself to feel. Would this be the moment he shed the mask he wore for years? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the final note lingered in the air, Jonathan's face twisted in an unreadable expression. He stepped into the dim light, the shadows flickering across his features. The office staff held their breath, waiting, everyone knowing the gravity of moments like this. What would he do? Would he lash out in anger or respond with a flicker of humanity? The stakes had never been higher. This was a pivotal moment that would either crush the atmosphere or lift it to the heavens. Jonathan stared at Mia, eyes wide in disbelief, as the world around them faded to black. What would happen next? The silence hung thick in the air. It pressed in on Mia like a heavy weight, her heart racing with every second that ticked by. Jonathan remained frozen in the doorway, a storm of emotions playing out behind his dark eyes. Did he really just let a moment of vulnerability seep through the iron gates of his stoic facade? The office staff watched, wide-eyed, their breaths held tight in their chests. Mia felt her own pulse throbbing in her ears. This was no ordinary confrontation. This was a man who had built walls so strong that even the softest song might not be enough to tear them down. And yet, here he was, a shadow caught in the light, illuminated by her melody. Would she be the one to break him? "Sir," she finally managed to say, her voice shaky but earnest. She stepped forward slightly, unsure whether to rejoice at the crack in his armor or cower before the dragon. The level of tension in the room had escalated to a point that felt almost electric. "Stop," he ordered, breaking the moment like glass shattering on marble. The single word reverberated off the cold, sterile walls, slicing through the vulnerability they had both felt. But before he turned to storm away, something flickered in his expression, a glimmer of conflict, a pinprick of curiosity. He hesitated, his body taut with a struggle only he could comprehend. Did you write that? His voice was low, almost a whisper, but it cut through the silence like a knife. The employees leaned forward, as if caught in a captivating spell. Mia's heart jumped. Yes, it's something I've been working on for a while. Jonathan stepped closer, as if magnetized to her presence. Play it again, he commanded, an edge of urgency creeping into his tone. Are you sure? The doubt slipped out before she could stop it. What if he hated it? What if it was an emotional trap, leading her deeper into his bitter world? He answered her uncertainty with a steady gaze, and she could see the weight of years pressing down on him. I need to hear it, he insisted, his voice now shaking just slightly. With trembling hands, Mia returned to her desk, letting the verses fill the air once again. The notes poured from her as if they were soaked in raw emotion. This was no longer just a melody, it was a chance for redemption not just for her, but for him. As the music washed over them like a cleansing tide, a shift took place. The harsh lines of Jonathan's frown softened, almost imperceptibly, while strange, foreign feelings tugged at the corners of his lips. Around them, the office filled with a hushed energy, a fragile hope budding where none existed before. Employees sneaked glances at Jonathan, disbelief washing over their faces. Was he really contemplating a smile? But then, just as the last note fell away, the spell was shattered by the sudden blare of a phone. The sharp ring shrieked through the atmosphere like a gunshot, and Jonathan's eyes snapped back to reality, the tension tightening once more. What now? He growled, the moment crumbling. His guard shot back up, defenses fortified like a fortress. Mia's heart sank. She dared a glance around the room, where shoulders slumped in disappointment. The magic had evaporated. Sir, she hesitated, caught between her desire to explain and the fear of crumbling hope. It's just a call from corporate. Jonathan turned sharply, frustration etched on his features. Tell them I'm not available. As he stormed away, a chill swept through the office, the tension once again back to an unbearable weight. What had started as a moment of connection had turned into one more hurdle in their fraught relationship, but what Mia didn't know was that the call wasn't just any call. It was a warning, a sinister message that would unravel the very foundation of everything Jonathan had built. And it was about to change everything. In the chaos of the moment, Jonathan's mind was in turmoil. Who thought it would get this personal? Who knew about Mia's influence? Everything was about to change, and he had no way of knowing that the storm brewing outside would soon unleash its fury. Within. What loomed around the corner? What truths still lay hidden? The atmosphere felt heavy, caught between the tension of what just happened and the oncoming storm, both literal and metaphorical. Mia stood rooted in place, the lingering notes of her music fading into silence. She could still feel the charged energy in the room, the surprising vulnerability she glimpsed in Jonathan's eyes. But now it felt overshadowed by the impending doom of corporate calls and the oppressive weight of his retreat. Did you hear what he said? Whispered one of her colleagues, eyes wide with disbelief. What just happened? Was that a moment? Another added, their tone dancing between excitement and confusion. Mia felt her cheeks flush slightly. Had they seen what she saw? Jonathan, the unyielding titan of the company, had revealed a soft side, but now it was buried once more deep within layers of steel. Guilt crept in. Had she pushed him too far? Across the room, Jonathan's brow furrowed as he took a moment to steady himself. His fingers tightened around his phone, and for a heartbeat, the chaos of the office dimmed into the background. He could feel the shadows creeping in, the looming uncertainties that had always haunted him. The desperate urgency of the call from corporate echoed in his mind, growing louder. There were whispers of danger, consequences that threatened to unravel his empire. It's no use ignoring them, he muttered to himself, retracing the gravel-crunching paths of his decisions over the years, those choices that had carved his identity, work, achievement, but at the cost of everything else. He strode down the hall, his steps purposeful but jittery. The air felt charged, thick with unspoken words, and as he passed Mia's desk, he couldn't help glancing at her. She sat there, a symphony of emotions playing on her face: fear, hope, confusion. It struck him like a bolt of lightning, but he quickly pushed the thought away. He had to stay concentrated. Focused. "Sir." A voice called from behind him. It was Allison, his assistant. "You need to hear this." He turned, the tension in his jaw tightening. "What is it?" "Corporate S called in a team for a meeting," she explained, her voice trembling slightly. "They're worried about the rumors, about you and Mia." Jonathan's heart sank. How could they know? It felt like a noose tightening around him, whispers rising and falling like waves, juicy gossip within the office walls, sharing half-truths and assumptions. He clenched his fists. "I don't have time for this nonsense." Allison glanced at him narrowly, her brow furrowed in concern. "It's not nonsense if it's affecting the company's reputation. You need to address it." The kettle was about to boil over, and he felt the heat creeping up his spine. "Didn't I say I'm not available?" Mia craned her neck, catching snippets of the conversation. A cold wave of anxiety washed over her. She had stirred something inside him, yet the world beyond their office doors was a tempest ready to unleash chaos, both for him and herself. With every calculated move Jonathan made, her heart ached deeper in its rhythm. Was she causing more damage than good? Was his moment of vulnerability a mere illusion, an ephemeral dream in the stark reality of their work lives? A shrill buzz jolted her from her thoughts, a notification lighting up her phone screen. Multiple missed messages, then one that drew her breath short. "Need you to come up to corporate. Now." Her mind raced. What was going on? This urgency felt electric, sending her pulse racing. Jonathan, still standing in the doorway, felt Mia's intensity from across the room. It was like a siren's call, drawing him in. But he gritted his teeth. He couldn't let emotions cloud his judgment, not now. Little did he know, their worlds were about to collide with a force that could either bind them together or tear them apart irreparably. What truth would emerge from the corporate storm? What revelations lay in wait, poised to turn everything upside down? Mia quickly stood, feeling each heartbeat pounding like a drum in her ears. What could they want? The question spiraled in her mind, tangled with a mix of dread and curiosity. She glanced at Jonathan, who was now a mere silhouette against the backdrop of a fluorescent-lit corridor. The tension in the room buzzed like electricity, thrumming beneath her skin. "Are you coming?" Allison's voice cut through her furor. Mia swallowed hard, determination flickering in her chest. "Yes, I'm coming." As she moved through the office, she caught snatches of whispered conversations. Secret glances darted her way. The employees had transitioned from stunned witnesses to conspirators, unraveling the threads of speculation. It felt like she was walking through a minefield. When she reached the elevator, she found Jonathan standing silently, his jaw set. The moment their eyes met, an unspoken understanding resonated in the air, taut as a drawn bowstring. He looked almost regal, his posture betraying no hint of the storm brewing inside. The ride to the corporate floor felt interminable, the elevator barely containing the weight of anticipation. Even the usual chime was drowned out by the chaotic whisperings of what lay ahead. "What do you think they want?" Mia ventured, breaking the silence that threatened to suffocate them. Jonathan maintained his stony facade. "To discuss the implications of our interactions," he replied coolly, yet the tremor in his voice was unmistakable. The way he said interactions made it sound so clinical. She hated that it was true. Mia's stomach twisted. "I didn't mean for this to happen." "I thought we were." Her words trailed off, swallowed by the magnitude of their predicament. But Jonathan didn't respond. He was too focused, eyes turned inward as if grappling with his own shadows. As they approached the corporate floor, she could see the austere glass doors that concealed the boardroom, a portal to an avalanche of fate. Unspoken fears permeated the air as the doors slid open to reveal corporate stooges hunched over, whispering like vultures. Jonathan strode in, exuding bravado, yet she felt the current of fear emanating from him. This was a man at war with himself, standing on the cliff edge of revelation. "Mr. Harrington," began one of the executives, their voice oily and condescending, cutting through the tension like a knife. "We need to address the rumors circulating among the staff. Your relationship with Mia, it's becoming a liability." "Liability?" Jonathan's voice rose, edged with disbelief. "I assure you, there's nothing, no." Another snapped back, their scrutiny sharp as blades. "You don't think this could damage both your reputation and ours? Emotional connections have no place in the boardroom." Mia's heart raced. She felt like a piece in a game she didn't understand, pawns moving and colliding with ruthless efficiency. This wasn't just corporate gossip, it was an assault on everything she and Jonathan had begun to build. As the meeting dragged on, the walls moved inexorably closer, each word a tightening noose. "What are you going to do?" She blurted out, the words escaping before she could think. Jonathan shot her a glance, something flickering in his expression: fear, yes, but also defiance. "I'm going to fight for this." Then, the unthinkable happened. A high-pitched voice broke through the thick tension. The uptight head of HR, Claire, had returned to the room. Smile frozen on her face, she held a small envelope, eyes gleaming with ambition. "We also have something to share," she declared, a gleam of mischief in her voice. "It seems some stories are more than just rumors," and just like that, the floor beneath them trembled. What had she unleashed, and where would it lead them? Mia clenched her fists, the weight of the coming storm vibrating through her frame. The winds were shifting, and neither of them knew how to face the tempest that was about to break. What deeper secrets did Claire hang over them? What would it reveal when the truth unraveled? Mia's breath caught in her throat as Claire strode toward the head of the table, holding the envelope like a trophy. The board members shifted in their seats, eyes darting between the envelope and Jonathan. It was like the air thickened, stinging with tension. "What now?" Jonathan's voice was a thunderous whisper, barely concealing the turmoil raging under his calm facade. Claire's smile widened as she carefully tore the envelope open. "This," she said, pulling out a single sheet of paper, "is an official notice." She held it up, allowing the fluorescent lights to reflect the glossy surface. "It contains evidence that may affect both your futures here. It's only fair we address it before it spirals out of control." Mia felt her insides twist. Panic coursed through her veins as alarm bells rang in her head. Whatever it contained, it was not going to be good. What kind of evidence? Jonathan's voice turned flat, the defiance had begun to slip. "Proof," Claire stated, letting the word hang in the air, "that you two were not simply a couple of office flirts. This was reported by multiple sources." She paused for effect, letting their imaginations run wild. "Not only have you crossed professional boundaries, but I have a feeling you also crossed ethical ones." Mia's skin turned cold. She remembered that casual evening when she and Jonathan had shared a moment too personal. Had someone seen them? Had someone reported on them? Around the room, murmurs erupted, tones shifting from shock to amusement, or pity. Mia couldn't tell. All she knew was a fiery mix of anger and vulnerability swept through her. "Do you have any idea how this could damage everything?" Jonathan burst out, his voice cracking. They had shared late nights, warm glances, stolen kisses, but now, they were some twisted headline in an industry with no heart. Jonathan's pulse quickened, his breaths were shallow, almost desperate. He was losing control, and Mia felt it, too. This wasn't just a workplace rumor, it was a highly orchestrated attack. "Enough." Claire leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. "Shouldn't we review this together? After all, as we delve into the details, perhaps more than your jobs will be at stake here." Mia gulped, the weight of each word they spoke echoed louder than the chaos then enveloping their reality. The air was electric with fear and anticipation. What did Claire mean by more than your jobs? Jonathan's gaze met hers, a flicker of terror and something deeper lingering in the depths of his usually composed demeanor. They weren't just fighting for a relationship anymore, they were fighting for their futures, their sanity. "What do you want, Claire?" Jonathan's voice was steady now, though the tension in his shoulders hinted at the storm inside. Claire toyed with the edge of the paper, savoring the moment. "I want truth," she said, her penchant for the dramatic evident. "And I want to know just how far you're willing to go to protect it." Mia's heart raced. What kind of truth could bring them down? And what lengths would they have to cross to shield themselves against the tsunami about to crash? In the back of her mind, the silent question echoed louder as she felt Jonathan's warmth seeping into her. Was this the beginning of an unraveling, or did they still have any chance to salvage what they had? Before she could speak, the boardroom door flung open. A familiar face appeared, breathless and panic-stricken. "You need to see this," he shouted, urgency coating every syllable. Mia felt the blood drain from her face. It was too late for secrets now. What had just cracked open was about to turn the office into a battlefield, a revelation that might ripple far beyond their fragile connection. What revelation awaited them? And would they be ready when the truth finally struck? Mia jumped at the sound of the door slamming against the wall. The man's panicked eyes scanned the boardroom, and Mia felt a chill run down her spine. He was from marketing, Alex, she thought. His frantic breath stirred the heavy air, igniting her fears. "Alex, what is it?" Jonathan asked, tension tightening his voice like a noose. "They're leaking the files to the press." Alex stammered, the color draining from his face. "All the evidence. Everything Claire has. This isn't just a rumor anymore, it's about to blow up. Our entire department is on the line, everyone." A gasp rippled through the room as the board members exchanged horrified glances. The echo of whispered names filled the air, casting shadows over Mia and Jonathan. They could lose everything, their positions, their trust, and each other. "What do we do?" Mia asked, panic bubbling to the surface. She could hardly breathe, a heavy knot forming in her chest. "Stay calm." Jonathan's hand found hers, squeezing tight. But she had seen the storm in his eyes. He was unraveling, too. "We need to take control of this. We can't let them dictate the narrative." Claire, watching the chaos unfold, leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smirk playing on her lips. "It seems your little secret has become quite the spectacle. Are you prepared for the fallout? Because it's coming, and it won't be pretty." "What's your angle, Claire?" Jonathan shot back, his voice rising, transgressing the barrier they created. "Does this make you feel powerful? Destroying what you can't control?" Around them, the board members fidgeted, a mix of excitement and dread painted across their faces. They were loving this. It was the drama they had unknowingly craved. Claire chuckled softly. "This isn't about power. It's about survival." "My hands are clean, yours." "Stop," Mia interjected, fury igniting her veins. "This has nothing to do with you. You're the one orchestrating this mess. We can turn it around before it escalates." "Turn it around?" Claire rolled her eyes, cutting Mia off. "How naive. You two can't rewrite the narrative once it's out. But I'd love to see you try." The tension morphed into something sharper, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. Jonathan's expression hardened. "Then tell us what you want, Claire. If you consider yourself a strategist, let us play the game." Claire leaned in, inches away from Jonathan. "I want you to fend for yourselves. The more you dig, the deeper you'll fall, both of you. And if you do want to come out on top, I suggest making some interesting choices." Mia's stomach lurched. It felt like Claire was begging them to rise to the challenge, like a puppeteer delighting in her fractured marionettes. "You think we'll crumble under pressure?" She shot back, her body shaking with indignation. "How deep are you willing to push us?" Suddenly, the boardroom door swung open again with less urgency this time. Another colleague, Sarah, stepped inside, her face pale and eyes wide. "They just made the first post online," she whispered, trembling. "They're tagging us in it." Mia's heart dropped. It was happening. The story was being told without their voices, framing them as villains in a saga they had never intended to be part of. Jonathan's grip on her hand tightened as the silence in the room stretched long. A revelation they couldn't ignore. What were they prepared to sacrifice to regain the narrative? As whispers of scandal danced on the air, Mia felt the weight of inevitability crashing down. Was this the battlefield they were now fighting on? Or had they stumbled into a trap laid by someone with a much darker motive? The sound of her own heartbeat filled her ears as she prepared for whatever would come next. How far would they push back? And would they emerge from the wreckage stronger or utterly broken? With a rumble of uncertainty, she realized this was only the beginning. Mia's breath hitched as she looked around the room. The board members were still whispering, the murmurs growing louder, sharper. A palpable sense of dread filled the air. Claire watched with cold satisfaction, a predator excited by the chaos swirling around her. What had started as a simple leak was now a wildfire threatening to engulf them all. "Do you see the headline?" Jonathan's voice cut through the noise, a sudden clarity piercing his panic. "They've framed us, we're the bad guys in their story." "Exactly," Claire interjected. Her smirk widened, relishing their turmoil. "And you two are merely players on a stage I built. You have a choice: keep fighting and watch your world burn, or join me and rewrite the narrative in ways even I wouldn't imagine." "I'm not playing your games," Mia snapped, anger igniting her voice. She could feel a sense of desperation clawing at her, demanding action. "We need to control this before it spirals even further. What do you suggest? A press release?" Claire laughed, an icy edge lacing her timbre. "It's too late for damage control. It's out there, and it's only going to get worse." Mia's mind raced. They needed a plan, but she could feel the room closing in around her. "Jonathan, we can't let her win. Let us gather the team, rally everyone. We can counter this." Suddenly, the buzz of her phone vibrated fiercely against the table. A message alert. It was from Sarah. "The comments section is brutal. They're calling for a full investigation. It's trending nationally." Mia's heart dropped. The weight of the world thrust violently onto her shoulders. "We can't afford to just sit here waiting," she urged. "We need to make a statement, something powerful that will turn this around." Jonathan hesitated, his brow furrowed with worry. "What if it backfires? What if we just fuel the fire?" The uncertainty hung heavy in the air, and Claire's laugh rang out again. "You see? That's the catch, 22 in this game. You want to respond but are terrified of what that response could mean. What do you think happens when you lose control?" Then, unexpectedly, her eyes widened. A devilish glint appeared, mischief dancing behind her facade. "I have an idea for you too. Since you're so determined to save yourselves, why not show the world your true colors? Lean into the chaos." "What are you talking about?" Jonathan snapped. "Embrace the spotlight, make a public appearance tonight." Claire leaned back, crossing her arms. "Dance your way into their hearts, win them over. Get in front of this, you'll be trending celebrities instead of villains. And if you fail, well, it won't be on me for once." Mia exchanged glances with Jonathan, dread and determination mixing in her gut. The thought of facing the media was terrifying, yet the idea of hiding felt like surrendering. "Let us do it," Mia said, her voice steady. Strength swelled in her chest like a fire igniting in the dark. "We have to take our story back." Jonathan looked conflicted but finally nodded. "Okay. But we can't go in blind. We need a plan." As the group hurriedly gathered around, lots of ideas flew, their fear melting into a tight bond. They discussed strategies, messages, and ways to present themselves as human, relatable, and in control, but outside the boardroom, chaos was brewing. Who knew what new headlines would be unleashed? The digital storm had only just begun. Claire watched them with a mixture of disdain and intrigue, a game player behind the mask of a spectator. Every move they made was a step further down a path she had laid out so carefully. In that moment, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that Claire was orchestrating something much darker than just a corporate game. Something that could obliterate not only their careers but their very lives. The clock was ticking. What had Claire set in motion? And what awaited them when they publicly stepped onto the battlefield? Mia barely recognized the reflection in the mirror as she adjusted her blouse for the third time. Her hands trembled slightly. This wasn't just about looking presentable, it was about survival. The entire world was waiting for their move, and Claire's words echoed relentlessly in her mind. Lean into the chaos. Jonathan emerged from the bathroom, raking a hand through his hair. His face was pale, but determination shone in his eyes, a flicker of belief among the storm of uncertainty. We're going to need more than just a plan. We need an angle, something that makes people root for us. Agreed, Mia replied, crossing her arms, biting back the surge of anxiety rising within her. We can't just react. We have to steer this narrative. A raucous laughter floated in from the living area. Mia's heart sank further. Their poke people gathering due to the scandal felt like spectators relishing a train wreck. She could picture the headlines. It sickened her. Claire had turned them into collateral damage in her twisted game. We can tell our story. Show them that we're more than just shadows of their scandal. Jonathan's voice quaked with urgency, pulling Mia back from her thoughts. All right, let us focus. As the clock ticked toward their public appearance, they gathered the members of their team, faces a mix of fear and anticipation. Each shared a piece of the conversation that had begun weighing heavily in the air. What about the leaked emails? Sarah chimed in, her eyes darting nervously. They keep bringing that up. We need to explain it. That was the past, Jonathan said sharply, but then softened, rubbing his temples. We can't change it, but we can position ourselves as relatable. We're human too. Mia nodded. We share our fears. We talk about how hard this has hit us, not just professionally, but personally. But that makes us vulnerable, one team member countered. Mia held her breath, staring into their eyes. Maybe vulnerability is our strongest card. If we act like a united front, showing them we feel this too, they connect. It's not about looking like superheroes, it's about being real. With palpable tension, they began to weave their narrative, stories of late nights, sacrifices, and personal struggles together. Just as the energy shifted and they began to feel some confidence, Claire's voice broke through their moment. She appeared in the doorway, arms crossed with a bemused grin. I'm impressed. Look at you all cozying up to the idea of martyrdom. Shut it, Claire, Jonathan snapped. She raised her hands in mock surrender. Just remember, the world loves a tragic hero. But don't think for a second this isn't a double-edged sword. You're still on a tightrope. Mia fought to keep her composure. We know what's at stake, Claire. But we refuse to let you dictate this anymore. With a dismissive shrug, she swept out of the room, leaving an uneasy silence behind. Activating their phones, the team prepared for the night. The warmth of a shared struggle buzzed around them, but apprehension still lurked at the edges. Mia couldn't shake the feeling they could be walking into a trap. Remember, Jonathan said, capturing Mia's wandering gaze, this is about control. We are not just fighting for our jobs, we're fighting for our lives. The sound of the door creaking open signaled the gathering crowd. As they approached the venue, their hearts raced in unison. Cameras flashed like wildfire as they stood before the stage, a world blurring behind the lenses. Facing the audience, they had one shot to reclaim their story. But could they outmaneuver Claire's shadow looming over them? Mia took a deep breath, her pulse pounding in her ears. The moment was here, and the stakes had never been higher. What if this leads to something we can't control? Jonathan whispered, doubt creeping in just as the lights dimmed. Those words hung in the air thick as fog. And then, in that moment of breathless anticipation, a voice cut through the darkness. Watch. You'll see. The stage was set, but what came next would be a revelation unlike anything they'd ever prepared for. The room buzzed with confusion as the mysterious voice echoed through the darkness. Mia's heart raced, the flutter of panic colliding with curiosity. Who had just spoken? The stage lights flickered back on to reveal a massive screen behind them emblazoned with the words, "Shocking truth, CEO who never smiled for 20 years breaks down after secretary's song at midnight." Gasps rippled through the crowd, their faces a mixture of shock and disbelief. "What the hell is this?" Jonathan whispered, his eyes darting to Mia. She could see the worry etched deep in his brow. Mia's throat tightened. This wasn't part of their plan. The narrative they painstakingly crafted was slipping through their fingers like sand. They'd be prepared to show vulnerability, but this? This felt like a punch to the gut. The screen shifted to an image of Mr. Thompson, the stoic CEO with a reputation for coldness. A video began to play. The crowd grew silent, all eyes glued to the flickering images. The video showcased Mr. Thompson's unyielding facade, boardroom meetings laden with tension. Mia's stomach churned as clips of his famous, emotionless speeches rolled on. Then, abruptly, the scene changed. In stark contrast, it cut to a dimly lit room where a young woman sat at a piano. Tears glistened in her eyes as she began to sing a soft, heart-wrenching ballad, the melody hauntingly beautiful. Mia felt the weight of every note, the sorrow pouring from the keys. I know her," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman in the video was Sarah, one of their own. She had shared dreams of writing songs one day, and now here she was amidst the chaos, revealing the depths of her soul. As Sarah sang, the camera shifted back to Mr. Thompson, revealing a rare moment of vulnerability. For the first time in years, he appeared to falter, his usual stern demeanor cracking under the weight of raw emotion. Tears streamed down his face, a sight so unexpected that Mia could hardly believe what she was witnessing. The crowd started to stir, whispers bouncing from person to person. Faces transformed from skeptical to sympathetic, and in that moment, a shift occurred. "They're framing us," Jonathan breathed, realization dawning as he tried to piece together the puzzle. This was all set up. Mia's mind raced. But why? What is Claire trying to accomplish? "Control," Jonathan replied, intense determination rekindling in his voice. "She's pulling the strings, anticipating every reaction. She wants us to look like fools." Their team was at a tipping point, teetering dangerously under the weight of scandal and sensationalism. And Claire was reveling in it while they were left to pick up the pieces. As the video concluded, the applause thundered through the venue. The audience, now fully captivated, turned their eyes to the stage where Mia and Jonathan stood, practically paralyzed by disbelief. Mia's mind raced. "We can't let this define us. We have to." The loud crackle of static interrupted her thoughts, juxtaposed against Claire's fallacious charm as she strutted onto the stage, a self-satisfied smile plastered on her face. The energy shifted yet again, tension pooling in the air, making it difficult for anyone to breathe. "Ah, my dear team," Claire began, her voice dripping with faux sympathy. "Isn't it wonderful how emotional moments can overshadow any scandal? It almost feels like you're out of the picture." Mia felt her heart hammering in her chest. They yet had to truly fight for their story, but how when Claire held the reins, as Claire's laugh echoed around them, Mia locked eyes with Jonathan. There was an urgency in their exchange, a silent pact to resist the tide, to reclaim the narrative even as chaos threatened to wash over them. "Whatever comes next," Jonathan said with conviction, "we face it together." The stakes had just risen higher, and the web of deception surrounding them thickened. Would they unravel Claire's plan, or would they be swallowed whole? And just as they prepared to counter Claire's blitz, a piercing scream cut through the applause. What had happened? Behind the scenes, where shadows danced and secrets intertwined. The scream echoed through the air, shattering the illusion of control like glass. Mia's heart raced, fear coursing through her veins. She turned to Jonathan, their eyes locking for a heartbeat as the crowd roared with a collective gasp. Panic began to bubble up, the atmosphere electric as everyone shifted their attention from Claire to the source of the outcry. From the back of the audience, someone staggered forward, face pale, mouth gaping in horror. Sarah. Sarah passed out. A wave of dread swept over the gathering crowd. Claire's smug expression faltered slightly, worry flickering behind her carefully constructed facade. As the commotion unfolded, Mia felt a surge of instinct. Without a second thought, she bolted into the audience, her heart pounding sickeningly. Clear a path. She shouted, reaching Sarah, who lay unconscious on the floor, surrounded by stunned colleagues. As dozens of eyes watched, Mia felt the gravity of the situation. The stakes had never been higher. Jonathan was close behind her, kneeling beside Sarah, checking her pulse and breathing. The confusion morphed into crisis mode. Is she breathing? Mia's voice broke through the chaos as the paramedics arrived, swift and decisive. Everyone, please remain calm. One of the medics called, taking control. Mia stepped back, allowing the professionals to do their job, but fear twisted in her gut like a vice. What was happening? Was this a coincidence, or had Claire orchestrated another ploy to topple their desperate fight for their narrative? With each passing moment, Jonathan's expression shifted from fear to undeterred resolve. Mia, we need to get ahead of this. If Sarah's condition is serious, we can't let it distract from our message. His determination ignited something within her. You're right, she said, breathing deeply to steady herself. We can't let fear dictate our fate. As Sarah was carefully transported out, applause erupted once more from the rest of the crowd, strange and unsettling. The audiences were reacting to the spectacle, the drama that Claire's clever orchestration had culminated into, and it fueled the fire in Mia's chest. Let us move. We need to continue our message. Jonathan shouted, reaching for Mia's hand, pulling her back to the front of the stage. The moment felt surreal, stepping back under the spotlight as they embraced the chaos. Everyone, Mia's voice rang out, a new defiance sparking within her. There's more to this story than what you think. We are not just characters in someone's games. We are humans, we feel, we are scared. The audience went silent, heads turning, curiosity flickering wider than before. Jonathan stepped forward beside her, and for the first time in years, his facade cracked, a hint of a smile tugging at the corner of his lips as he spoke. What just happened is real, and we need to feel that shock. It's what's driving us. It's what's driving me. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mia pressed on. This isn't just about the whispers or the headlines anymore. This is about integrity. It's about standing together in vulnerability. And if you think we'll let anyone tear down what we built together, you're mistaken. The audience leaned in, intrigued. The energy in the room shifted, awakening a sense of unity. Jonathan's hand tightened around hers as the crowd shifted from amusement to empathy, their connection morphing into something more profound. It's all been a trap, Jonathan continued, voice solid. But we refuse to fall with it. We're not just standing on this stage, this is a battle for our lives, our dignity, and our future. But we demand to be the ones to tell our story. With each passing heartbeat, Mia could feel the surge of strength rooting both of them. They were fighting back, not just against their enemies, but alongside their team, their truth fighting for recognition. As they stood together under the spotlight, she noticed Claire lurking at the back of the room, that self-satisfied smirk replaced by a look of confusion. This was no longer her game, it was theirs. Tonight, we reclaim our narrative not just for us, but for anyone who has felt silenced, Mia declared, her voice unwavering. And we do it together. As their team rallied, applause began to thunder, the energy transformed, shattering the previous tension. The crowd was on their feet, as if they'd suddenly awakened to a new truth buried underneath the scandals. Mia could feel Jonathan's warmth beside her, and their past fears melted into the resolve to press forward together. Outside, the stormed clouds began to clear, revealing a moonlit sky, a gentle glow washing over them like a promise of renewal. In that instant of unity, they understood they had turned a corner. Jonathan squeezed her hand tightly, and just like that, the weight of every worry began to lift. Maybe the story was only beginning. As the applause filled their ears, Mia smiled genuinely. "Let us finish this," she whispered to Jonathan, resolved. The crowd chanted their names, a siren's call for unity, hope, and resilience. Together, they were ready to confront whatever was coming, and as they took the next step forward fearlessly, Mia knew she was no longer afraid. Together, they faced the storm. Now, folks, this is the moment to show your support. Make sure you subscribe immediately so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how this ending resonates with you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this exhilarating conclusion. Jump on board, because moments like these are meant to be shared.